Well, hello, Sonoma County. Welcome to the Voters' Choice Act kickoff. We are excited here to be with you today. My name is LaKenya Jordan, and I'm Deputy Secretary of State for California Secretary of State Shirley N. Weber. And we are so glad to be here with you today, partnering with Sonoma County to kick off this event. Before we get started, I want to introduce Marcos from the Communications and Outreach team who's going to tell you about our Spanish interpretation. And we also have Odie over here who's going to be doing sign language the entire time. So Marcos.
Thank you, LaKenya. Buenas tardes. Sean bienvenidos a esta sesión informativa acerca de las diferentes opciones para votar en las próximas elecciones, presentada a ustedes por la Secretaria de Estado, Shirley Weber. Los invitamos a seguir esta sesión en nuestro canal de YouTube, donde se estará transmitiendo en vivo con interpretación simultánea al español. Y ahora vamos de regreso con LaKenya.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marcos, for that wonderful Spanish interpretation. So once again, Sonoma County wants to welcome you to the Voters' Choice Act kickoff event, where we're here to congratulate Sonoma County on making the choice to have more days and more ways of voting. Before we get started, I want to introduce our illustrious, wonderful Secretary of State, my boss, California Secretary of State, Shirley N. Weber. And so I'll read a bit of her background for you this afternoon, sorry. So Dr. Weber got nominated by Governor Nat Newsom in December of 2020, where she was sworn in 2021. She is the first Black Secretary of State and only the 5th African-American to serve as a state constitutional officer in the entire 170 history of California. Secretary Weber was born to sharecroppers in Hope, Arkansas during the segregationist era. So she endured some pretty tough hardships, her and her family. And her father left that town and came to California many years ago to start a brand new life. And during her entire time here in California, Dr. Weber's family has always fought for civil rights. And more particularly, Dr. Weber has served as an assembly and member for the city of California. She's also served as a professor at San Diego State University, where she actually taught for many years. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you a fantastic human being, the person who, again, champions us every day here at the Secretary of State's office, Dr. Shirley N. Weber. Secretary?
Thank you, LaKenya. And I'm honored to be with you this evening as you are kicking off this extremely important event, becoming a VCA county. We are joined today by the Sonoma County Registrar Voter, Diva Protho, and her team. And so we're really honored to be here to basically be a part of what is going to take place with regards to that. But before we hear from your county, I want to share a little bit about what goes on in the Secretary of State's agency. Oftentimes we hear the word Secretary of State and we don't know what that really means. And it's a tremendous organization with an awful lot of responsibilities, and it impacts everyone's life. After I talk about the agency a little bit, then I want to share some information about the Voters' Choice Act model before turning it over to your county. And there will be time for questions and answers after we hear from the county. So please be sure to add your questions to the Q&A box and the chat box at the bottom of your screen for those of you who are listening and who are participating virtually. The California Secretary of State's agency is located in Sacramento, just a block away from the Capitol, in a huge building. And we have close to 600 employees that make up over 7 divisions in the Secretary of State's office. And I want to emphasize this because we have great employees. And at some point, I'm hoping that some of you are listening will want to become an employee and a participant in the Secretary of State's office. What's not listed here is we also have a lot of interns, college students who work for us, who are intern and who learn a lot about the office. And the unique thing about our interns is that they are paid. So it's a great way to afford going to college, having a great job, working and learning about the state in itself. But the California Secretary of State is made up of 7 entities. And most of us think only of the election piece, but the archives is the oldest state agency in California. and it is housed in the Secretary of State's office. It provides the state's permanent government records as well as material documents from California's history. It's extremely important to note that because it includes some physical as well as electronic records with legal and administrative and evidentiary rules and values that it has for us. So it's really important, if you've not had a chance to go to our archives on our website, do that, because there's a lot of good information there. And it's a good way also to learn a little bit about not only California, but to learn about yourself and your family and those who make up California. So we've worked hard to make sure the archives is reflective of all women, all men, all people of color. We're looking at all the agencies. All of the history of anything that relates to California is in the California archives. And we have an amazing staff who's willing to work with you and take you through that process. We are also a business, have responsibility for all the business entities that exist in California. The business program division is comprised of three primary areas of business entities: the Uniform Commercial Code and the Notary Public and Special Filings. So anyone who's interested in entering a business would basically register their organization with us. These entities and qualifies out of state as well as international business. And so we are excited about our business department. It's actually the largest division that we have. We also deal with the Uniform Commercial Code, which files certain financial statements allowing lending institutions to protect their financial interests and personal property and establish priority in case of debtor or debt or bankruptcy. We also have the notaries. Those of you who have to get documents signed by special notaries. Those are also registered with the Registrar of Voters, and we appoint and commissioners qualify for Notary Public for 4 years at a time and reviews and improve our notary education courses and certificates and all those kinds of things that are there. So if you ever have a notary, it has been someone who's been certified by the Secretary of State. The third thing that we have is elections, and everybody knows that we oversee all of the elections. I am the official election director for the state of California. All elections come under our office, no matter how small or how large. And we work with the 58 counties to make sure that our elections are fair and safe and transparent. And we make sure that all of our candidates are certified and that they're placed on the ballot, and that our ballot materials are examined, and that they're safe and they're transparent for everyone to take advantage of. We also have an executive division. This is where the executive division houses our VCA programs, our voter education and outreach programs, our legislative programs. We work with a lot of the bills and our constituent services. So when you call, you will get someone from the executive branch that will work with you and to answer your questions. We also have a number of student programs, college programs, HAVA programs, and other forms of outreach in terms of getting voters, but also, and we also have a communications division. So all of the communications and cyber information is there. We have an information and technology division that monitors and all of our building communication networks while safeguarding all of your data and creating administrative databases for use. So we have an entire information technology department that's within the Secretary of State's office. We have our management services division. Like most places that have lots of employees, it houses not only all of our information concerning our employees and their benefits and those kinds of things, but it also deals with our Safe at Home program, programs that we have that deal with the confidentiality of people's addresses, and those who are victims of any kind of domestic violence, stalking, or sexual assault is there as well. And we're responsible for all recruitment and retention and training and processes that happen for all of our employees are done through the management service division. And last but surely not least is the political reform division. You often hear about this. But this includes folks that are dealing with campaign and lobbying and disclosure of information with regards to political reform acts, making sure that all contributions are adequately recorded, people know who's giving money for, and making sure that the expenditures in campaigns and the receipts, all of those things are monitored by our office in the political reform division. So we have a very robust organization, but central to a lot of that is our election division and the executive division that deals with the Voter Choice Act. And we're excited about you becoming a part of the Voter Choice Act because it is an amazing act that really opens up a lot of opportunities, as it says, more days and more ways for people to be able to vote, to take advantage of it. And so we're excited about you becoming a VCA, joining so many of the other counties that have decided that this is something that improves the outcome, it improves the opportunity for people to vote, and it gives you, as I said, more opportunities to do so. So thank you so very much to Sonoma County for joining the party, becoming a part of this whole effort to really increase our participation, all of California's participation in the voting process. At this time, I want to give you Alicia, our Assistant Deputy Secretary of Policy and Planning and the Voters' Choice Act. So thank you so very much for having me with you, and welcome to the family.
Thank you, Secretary. That was a wonderful background. So as you guys can see, we've been pretty busy here at the Secretary of State's office. So as you heard, the Voters' Choice Act is part of the Secretary of State's office. And I was going to give you a few notes about our background and what we've been doing for the past 12 months and introduce our Assistant Deputy Secretary, Alicia Albanese. So on this call today, you're going to hear from a number of people who are involved in this process. And for the past 12 months, we've been working hard to expand the number of counties who actually get to participate in this whole thing for Voters' Choice Act. And just so we don't lose focus of why we're here today, the Voters' Choice Act is all about making sure that we are expanding the ways and the days in which you get to actually vote. So there's greater flexibility for voters in Sonoma County. And that means that every person will be mailed a ballot. There'll be more days to vote in person. And then you can vote in your vote center, in your election office. And then there'll be also drop boxes all around the area. So here to tell you more about that today is our Assistant Deputy Secretary, Alicia Albanese, who I work with every single day. And I'll tell you, she's pretty fearless. She's out there helping counties to make those decisions and getting you into position for the upcoming election. So without further ado, Alicia Albanese.
Thank you, LaKenya, and good evening, everyone. So let's talk about what is the Voters' Choice Act. The Voters' Choice Act was passed by the legislature as SB 450 in 2016 and was adopted in 2017. This election model provides voters with greater flexibility and convenience, as we heard from LaKenya, or more days and more ways to vote, and allows voters to choose how, when, and where to cast their ballot. Voters have the option to vote by mail, in person at a vote center, or by returning their ballot to a secure ballot drop-off location. Every active registered voter is mailed a ballot before each election. Secure drop boxes are open throughout the county beginning 28 days before an election, so voters can return their ballots as soon as they receive them. Voters can cast a ballot at any vote center in the county. To drop off a ballot, can vote in person up to 10 days before the election, or conditionally register to vote and cast their vote the same day. VCA also provides greater accessibility to voters with disabilities and voters of language minorities. At a vote center, voters can cast a ballot using an accessible voting machine and can also use translated materials in multiple languages to assist with filling out a ballot. Engaging voters through community organizations. Guaranteeing access to voting ensures every voice is represented in our democracy, and the Voters' Choice Act was developed with that in mind. VCA facilitates and encourages voter inclusion by leveraging insights on hard-to-reach communities through partnerships with organizations such as the League of Women Voters, Disability Rights California, Common Cause, and the ACLU. Reaching out to language minority groups and voters with disabilities to ensure their access to and participation in the electoral process. And also offering an election model that positions power into the hands of voters through voter education and outreach to ensure they are aware of and can exercise their preferred voting options. Engaging voters through advisory committees. At the county level, the Voters' Choice Act engages language communities and voters with disabilities by forming a Language Access Advisory Committee, a LAC, and a Voter Accessibility Advisory Committee, a VAC. The LAC is responsible for ensuring that all voters, but especially limited English proficient voters, understand the voting process and all of their options. The VAC is designed to advise, assist, and provide recommendations to the Secretary of State's office as to how voters with disabilities can vote independently and privately. These committees help provide feedback on the county's election administration plan, which includes a framework for community outreach and engagement to ensure voters are educated about the election, a description of the county's budget for voter education and outreach activities, and also an overview of how the budget compares to the amount of money spent in a recent similar election. VCA counties are also required to hold education workshops with community groups and their advocates to further voter education and outreach. Expansion of VCA in California. So in 2018, when VCA was first implemented, 5 counties participated in the VCA election model, including Napa, Nevada, Sacramento, San Mateo, and Madera counties. By 2020, 10 new counties adopted the Voters' Choice Act election model, totaling 15 counties. And they're listed here on the slide. By the end of 2022, 28 counties will participate in the Voters' Choice Act election model, including Sonoma County. That means more than 16 million voters in the state of California will have more options for casting a ballot available to them. California voter resources. Recently enacted legislation now provides all active registered voters in California with a vote-by-mail ballot prior to each election. Be sure to check your voter registration status at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov, as only active registered voters will automatically receive their ballots in the mail. You may be an inactive voter if you've moved and not re-registered to vote, if your mail was ever returned undeliverable, so it's really important to check your status. Once you've confirmed your status, visit the California Early Voting website, caearlyvoting.sos.ca.gov, to find further information on voting locations in your county and how you can request and receive a remote accessible vote-by-mail ballot or request translated materials. If you are not currently registered to vote or need to re-register, you can do that too. The QR code on the screen links directly to the California Early Voting website. If you have any questions about the Voters' Choice Act, please feel free to reach out to me, Alicia Albornoz, or our Deputy Secretary, LaKenya Jordan, through our voterschoice@sos.ca.gov email. Now I'd like to welcome the Sonoma County Registrar of Voters. Diva Marie Proto is the elected county clerk, recorder, assessor, and registrar of voters for Sonoma County. She has been with the department since 2009 and was elected to office in June of 2018. Ms. Proto has worked to continue providing the essential services of the office during fires, floods, and the pandemic, while increasing communication and access to information and transparency. Welcome, Diva.
Thank you very much for the introduction. All right. So as mentioned, my name is Diva Marie Proto, and I'm the Sonoma County Clerk, Recorder, Assessor, and Registrar of Voters. And I'm here today to speak about the Voters' Choice Act in Sonoma County specifically. So our Sonoma County voters will be quite familiar with our traditional polling place models. That is where only certain voters were mailed a ballot, those who had signed up to permanently vote by mail, and then also those who had requested a vote by mail ballot for that election only, or those who were assigned to mail ballot precincts. So precincts that were too small to have their own location. We had assigned polling places. Those were not necessarily the closest or most convenient location for the voter. And each polling place only had one ballot type. So if you went to the wrong polling place, you would have to vote a provisional ballot that's not counted on election night. It would be counted afterwards. And there was no guarantee of you being able to vote on all races to which you were entitled. It was very difficult to find enough bilingual poll workers for all our locations. And our paper rosters were printed 2 weeks in advance, so it didn't have up-to-date information. There were also minimal requirements and resources for additional outreach. So with the Voters' Choice Act model, as mentioned, all active registered voters are sent a ballot in the mail. That's actually now state law. It's not just for the Voters' Choice Act. We have to have one secure official ballot drop box for every 15,000 voters, one vote center for every 50,000 voters, and that's open for 11 days total, one vote center for every 10,000 voters that are open for 4 days. Voters can go to any vote center in the county in order to cast their vote. It also requires us to prepare an election administration plan with public input, have our language accessibility advisory committee, as well as our voting accessibility advisory committees up and running, and it requires increased public outreach and communication. So the differences for Sonoma County specifically, we have about 303,000 active registered voters right now. With a traditional polling place model, we would be looking at 175 to 200 polling places open for a single day for a countywide election, and probably 900 to 1,200 poll workers. With the Voters' Choice Act model, we'll have 7 locations that are open for 11 days, 31 locations that are open for 4 days. So that's the original 7, and then we'll add an additional 24, 21 ballot drop boxes, and we'll probably have about 250 to 400 poll workers, but we'll have them for a longer time period. So this, you may be thinking this is similar to the November 2020 election. We were unable to conduct the traditional polling place model due to COVID-19. We were able to implement a Voters' Choice Act similar model. So there was specific legislation that allowed us to do that. It did not require the elections administration plan or the 11-day vote centers, and there were no additional direct mailings that were required. Our county used grant funding from the CARES Act and from the Center for Tech and Civic Life to purchase mobile ballot printers, secure encrypted wireless access point devices, the secure ballot drop boxes, and then a variety of IT devices such as laptops, mice, cable, etc. So in November of 2020, we managed to secure 29 locations for 4 days of voting. Our office was the 30th location. We installed 17 new official ballot drop boxes. We mailed ballots to all active registered voters, and we worked with the county communications team for enhanced outreach and voter education. We configured and deployed all the new hardware and software, and we trained all our poll workers on the new model. The picture on the screen is the locations that we utilized for the November 2020 election. So you can see they're spread out along the county. And our election results were very positive. Sonoma County had the highest turnout in California. We got positive feedback from the voters, the staff, and the poll workers. We had about 43% of voters utilize the ballot drop boxes. Another 36% sent them back by mail. We had 8% of people drop them off at one of our in-person voting locations. 7% of voters dropped ballots off just in our office, and 6% of voters voted in person at one of our locations. So based on those results, we decided to move forward with the Voters' Choice Act model. We received Board of Supervisors approval and funding to move to the model in March of 2021. We worked on our elections administration plan. It got delayed a little bit because if you remember, we had the recall election for Sonoma County that was also including our DA recall. So that delayed us a little bit, and our plan was eventually approved by the Secretary of State in December of 2021. So we are implementing it for this upcoming election cycle. That's the April 12th Town of Windsor special election. That's right around the corner, as well as the June 7th gubernatorial primary and the November 8th gubernatorial general. So we do get questions, why should we change? For us, one of the big reasons is disaster resiliency. If you are a Sonoma County voter, you understand the number of disasters we've had over the last several years. Voters can go to any location in the county and get their ballot. That means if we have an active fire or an area that's evacuated, the voters in that area are not disenfranchised, and they will be able to go to any other location, get their ballot with their races, and cast it without any questions being asked. There's also enhanced fraud protection and security. We are looking at voters in real time to ensure that they have not cast a vote anywhere else in the state of California. There's more voter choice and convenience. So voters can go to any place, regardless of if it is the closest to where they live. It may be closest to where they work or just on the way. They can also go on the day that's most convenient to them. We appreciated the public input into our elections administration plan. We think that improves the election process. The more voter outreach and communications, we're doing more direct mailings. We think that's better for the community. Because we have fewer locations, we'll actually have more bilingual access because we will be able to have Spanish speakers at every location. This new model also reduces voter challenges. The largest amount of provisional ballots that we had are because people are not in the correct location. So this will correct that. It also creates operational efficiency. We don't have to process all those vote by mail ballots or all those provisional ballots because people are going to be able to get their actual ballot. The pictures on the screen, for those of you who are curious, the top picture is the footprints of the disasters over the last several years that we've had in our county. And then the picture on the bottom was the likelihood of public surface safety shutoffs in around the November 2020 election. The red dots are our usual polling places. So you can see that if we had a PSPS event, we were going to have an issue with the elections. So regarding the vote center and official ballot drop box locations, we have to consider 15 different criteria. Those are listed on the screen. It includes population centers, communities that have had historically low vote by mail usage, parking, colleges and universities, geographically isolated populations. We worked with our county GIS team to map all of these different criteria, and we came up with the heat map that you see here on the right. That is what we've been using to try to cite our locations. All of our locations that we're using for an election will be posted on our website at sonomacounty.ca.gov/vote prior to every election. Those locations are also printed in our county voter information guide, and they're listed on an insert in every vote by mail ballot envelope. We do survey all our locations for accessibility. That allows equal access to all of our voting locations. We do that at least every few years in case there's any changes, and we take mitigation measures if necessary to make sure that those locations are accessible. So our 11-day vote centers looking towards the June election, we will have locations in Cotati, Healdsburg, Petaluma, 2 in Santa Rosa, Sebastopol, and Sonoma. As mentioned previously, the services available include in-person voting, dropping off your vote by mail ballot, receiving a replacement vote by mail ballot, updating voter registration, registering to vote, using our accessible ballot marking devices, and translation assistance. The map on the right are our likely locations for the June election. As mentioned, we also have our advisory committees. So the purpose of these are really to make sure that all our voters have equal access to the ballot. And they're composed of community members and advocates from their respective groups. So our LAC, our Language Accessibility Advisory Committee, is there to advise and assist us on implementation of the state laws and federal laws for voters with limited English proficiency. They want to make sure that all voters who can vote can understand the process. And our languages in Sonoma County are Spanish, Khmer, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. Our Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee, or our VAC, is there to advise and provide recommendations on how best to implement federal and state laws regarding access for voters with disabilities. We also have the requirement to do voter outreach. So we will have direct mailings, 2 to be specific. Those are postcards mailed to all active registered voters in the county. We plan on sending 1 postcard prior to the vote by mail ballots being sent out. and one prior to our 11-day vote centers opening to make sure people are aware of them. We're also working on advertisements, paper and online newspapers, radio, social media, electronic billboards, and television ads. We have ongoing communication and coordination with our community-based organizations. We have educational workshops. We just did them for the April election. There's one language access workshop, at least, that we target to our Spanish, Vietnamese, Tagalog, and Khmer communities. And then also an accessibility workshop that's targeted to voters with disabilities and their advocates. We also participate in a number of public events and public speaking. Our contact information is on the screen. All of our information about elections is at sonomacounty.ca.gov/vote. My information and email address is on the screen, as well as our main Registrar of Voters phone number and email. And we would always be happy to hear from you. And then here to answer questions, we have a number of people from the Secretary of State's office, as well as Wendy Hudson, our Chief Deputy Registrar of Voters.
I think it's where Tori steps in to look at questions. Oh, we don't have any questions.
Yes, I was waiting to see if any came through the Q&A portion just yet, but currently there are no questions open.
If anybody would like to ask a question, please feel free. You can use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll be able to see and respond to any questions you may have.
Can they also raise their hand?
Looks like we do have a couple of questions coming in so far. Our first question is actually for you, Diva. It is from Guy. He asks, how do costs for Sonoma County in a VCA model compare to cost of polling place models?
Great question. Initially, it will probably be higher. We do have more poll workers for longer time periods, less poll workers for longer time periods. But we anticipate, as we get things ironed out, that we will have cost savings eventually. We are also very fortunate to be able to leverage grant funding. So the Secretary of State is generously giving counties transitioning to the Voters' Choice Act additional funding to deal with the outreach, just because that is kind of an unanticipated thing that people haven't been planning for years. So we are leveraging that funding, and we do anticipate that eventually it will be similar to the traditional polling place model.
Thank you, Diva. We do have a second question, and I believe this is also for you. The question came from Sylvia. The question is, has the LAC and VAC been established in Sonoma County?
Yes, we do have a LAC and a VAC. Wendy, when did we get them up and running?
We had our first meeting for each committee before the deadline. I think they were in October of 21.
So we have multiple people on each committee, and they meet, I believe, quarterly. And we also have email communications with them as necessary. Election deadlines don't necessarily meet the quarterly time frame very well, so we're able to utilize them via email.
And Diva, do you post the meeting times and dates online so people can know when their meetings occur?
Yes, we have that listed on our website, as well as the agendas. And anybody is welcome to join, and if anybody is interested in joining the committees, we would absolutely welcome that.
Can Wendy provide her email address and contact information so people can follow up with her if they have any questions too?
Absolutely. They can also email the rov-info at sonoma-county.org email, and we will get that.
Do you want me to type my email address into the live Q&A?
Yes, that would be good so the community can connect with you as the
Okay.
outreach person. Yep.
Thank
We
you
also-
all.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, we also have the option of putting it in the regular chat as well for everyone to see.
Okay, looks like we do have another question from Jim. I believe this one might be for you, Diva. Okay, I believe you mentioned Sonoma had the highest percentage of people who were registered voters who actually voted. How does Sonoma County compare with other counties in terms of the percentage of citizens who are voting age population who are also registered?
Good question. I don't actually have that information. While we try to look at different areas of the county that have low voter registration, we don't do an analysis generally compared with other counties. We just simply don't have the staffing and the resources to do some of that extra analysis with the voting age populations. We're mainly focused on our registered voters, fulfilling all our mandates regarding that, and trying to get new people signed up and get the communications. But I don't have good answers about voting age eligible populations or how that compares to other counties, unfortunately.
Diva, this is Susan. The Secretary of State does do an analysis of eligible voters, so we can get that information to you to pass on to your constituents.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you all. I don't see any questions in the Q&A right now. Oh, just kidding. One did come through. This question is from, I believe the pronunciation is Jerry. When will the primary election ballots be mailed this year?
Wendy, do you want to answer that, or would you like me to?
Sure. The ballots will be going out around May 9th. May 9th is the deadline for them to go out in the mail.
We did get another question from Melissa here. Maybe more of a comment. The comment here is, as a 30-plus-year-old poll worker, I love the changes. It is long past time to make technology work for us instead of working a largely manual model. I have good tech skills and spend a significant number of my volunteer hours with the national NPO working with volunteers who are a close match to the ages of the poll workers who typically worked on election day in precincts or polling places. Are you going to be providing additional hands-on training opportunities for people who are tech deficient to enable them to better able to work with the tech at the vote centers? Hands-on training while a voter is breathing down our necks isn't particularly conducive to quality learning.
Totally understandable, and thank you for being a poll worker. We definitely understand that the tech information and the tech model is definitely changed from what a lot of our poll workers are working on. We are looking to perhaps leverage students and younger people, get them into the election process. They're generally very comfortable with tech. We have online video training that we do for all of our poll workers, and then anybody who wants it can come to our in-person training. Our inspectors, our leads are required to attend in-person training. One of the nice things about having the longer time period is that, especially in the early days, there are not a lot of voters, and we'll be able to provide more support from our office. So if there's any questions, When we have the 11-day vote centers, we only will have 6 of them, other than our office, open at one time. So we are able to provide a lot more support, make sure that everybody feels comfortable with everything. The same thing for the 4 days, because we're doing them in stages. We'll be able to have people who have worked at locations before go to the ones that are opening on the 4 days. And we will definitely be evaluating our training and making sure that we are providing everybody the support they need, because it is now going to be very tech heavy for a number of the jobs. There will still be other jobs there that people can do if they're not horribly tech comfortable, but it is definitely moving in a different direction than the paper and pen model that we had.
Thank you. And this may be a question for the group. The question is, what does it mean to be an active voter?
I can start with that one. So we have multiple types of voters in our system. So an active registered voter is someone who their information is up to date. We will be mailing them a voter information guide and a ballot. We also have inactive voters. So those are people that may have moved. We may have received information that they're no longer living there. Perhaps we heard from somebody that they were deceased. So we inactivate them so that they will no longer receive a ballot. But if they go to a vote center, if they go in person, confirm that they are living at the address that we have on file, we are able to issue them a ballot. We also have canceled voters in our system. So canceled voters may be those who are deceased, those who've been removed from our voter rolls. Perhaps they moved out of state, perhaps they moved to a different county. And we do keep them in our system because we want to preserve that history, their voter history. And then also, if somebody has moved to a different county, we have a statewide system. So somebody who is now in Contra Costa County, they are tied to our records. So we can't purge them from the system. We don't want to delete them from the state system. They are still an active voter somewhere in the state.
Thank you, Diva. Another question here is, how can someone sign up to be a poll worker? Second, it's a two-part question. The second part of the question is, do they have to volunteer for the full 10 days?
We do have an application on our website at sonomacounty.ca.gov/vote that people can fill out, let us know their availability. We are in touch with our poll workers prior to every election to see when they can vote. It's not necessary to work the full 11 days. We are still working with our Human Resources Department to put together the model that we will have going forward. But we will be able to have people work part of the time period, and hopefully split shifts as well. We're still working on the logistics of that, but we do understand it is a very long day.
Follow-up to that is, do you offer election observing opportunities?
We do have election observers. I believe the September recall was probably one of our most observed elections ever. We had people in the office almost every day, and we got very good feedback about that. So all of the election processes are open to the public. We encourage questions if you're curious about things. And we also have different events. So for instance, coming up, we have an open house at our elections office. We will be processing ballots for the April election. I believe that's going to be April 19th. Wendy can correct me if I'm remembering incorrectly.
Oh, our open house will be on April 19th.
And so you can come by, you can look at our office, you can ask questions, we'll give you a tour. You can see some of the processes that we go through to actually process everything.
Thank you. This question is for the county. How are you ensuring elections are secure?
Oh, we have a lot of different things. We have system security. So we work very closely with the state. All our election systems have to be certified by the Secretary of State. I'm not sure if we have the state, if the state's able to answer a little bit about that, but we get everything certified through the Secretary of State. There's actually information that comes directly from the state, so not from the vendors. Our ballot counting system is not connected to the internet in any way. It's a closed system that's only available in a secure room. We have badge access and cameras, security cameras on that room to make sure that nothing is tampered with. Our accessible ballot marking devices, although some people think that they are electronic voting or maybe online voting, they actually are simply devices in which people can mark their ballot. So California is a paper-based state, so all of our ballots are cast in paper and counted. We also have a lot of reconciliations and a lot of cross-checking that we do. So we're always checking to make sure that somebody is a registered voter. We have one ballot out for one person at the time. If somebody didn't receive their vote by mail ballot, when we issue them a second one, that first one is voided, so it can no longer be counted. We have our 1% manual tally. So we go through and we make sure that our humans are counting the same thing that our computers did to make sure that we have accuracy. We do logic and accuracy testing prior to the election, where we have outside people from the community come in and they ensure that our machines are counting and tallying the ballots correctly. This year, for the first time, we're going to be doing a risk limiting audit to make sure that everything statistically is working properly. So, and that's just some of the processes we have in place. And then maybe the state can speak about the security on the state side.
Eva, you did a great job. There is a lot, and you hit on a lot of it. Security is important across the entire state and has always been for California. California is, I consider, the gold standard in the country as far as voting technology goes. We've had voting technology testing and certification requirements for many, many years that go above and beyond what the federal government does and what other states do. Diva hit on a lot of what we do, but just even before the systems are used by counties and technology, whether we're talking about voting systems or e-poll books or ballot on demand, goes through rigorous testing at the state level. We are the only ones in the country that do this type of testing. We do accessibility testing, we do usability testing, we do privacy testing, we do security testing, which is, again, we're the only ones in the country that do what's called open-ended vulnerability testing. So our security testing is really going in and having white hat hackers try to get into the system and expose vulnerabilities if there are any, and to both at the software and the hardware and the firmware level, so across the board, not just on the software. We also do software testing, which is a line-by-line evaluation of the technology and the software code that's used to develop and use that system. We do functional testing, so we are using it in real life situations. We do volume testing. We put it through thousands of ballots to make sure that it can handle the systems can handle heavy loads. So we do a lot of testing that no one else does, and that's just before even counties can use it. So then if a voting technology meets that standard and is certified by the Secretary of State, because the Secretary of State is the only one that can certify those systems, then the counties can use it. But in order to be able to use it, we also put strict requirements on the counties. And Diva hit on a lot of those. It's strict chain of custody requirements, strict when Diva had talked about the software comes directly from the Secretary of State to the county. It's not coming through vendors. It is a straight chain of custody from us to the counties. There's requirements for logic and accuracy testing before the election, and then testing after the election as well through either 1% manual tally or risk limiting audits. But all through that, the strict chain of custody is required. There's seals on any open ports. And there's a certain requirement of seals that are part of the use procedures of those systems. So there's a whole process from the very beginning before they're even used all the way through the end and through the election and the certification of votes.
Thank you both. That looks like that concludes the Q&As that we do currently have. I will turn this back over to our internal VCA team if there are any closing remarks.
Well, thanks everyone for that wonderful presentation. We have learned a lot today about Voters' Choice Act, and we appreciate the questions. If there are any other questions, I wanted to just maybe offer the county's contact information and the county websites. So Diva, do you want to maybe again share your email addresses and Wendy too, possibly, so that people have a way of reaching you?
Absolutely. Our best email to reach us at is ROV for Registrar of Voters -info at sonoma-county.org. And that's also listed on our website at sonomacounty.ca.gov/vote.
You're muted, Latonya. Sorry.
It sounds like if there are any more questions, we can wrap it up. I think I see, did we ask the question that Melissa Kaplan had on here about making the recording available on the SOCO RLB website?
Thank you, Lakenya. No, it looks like that just came through. And so I think that is a suggestion here from Melissa asking for us to make this recording available. She said it was excellent.
Yeah. So Diva, where can they get the videos at? Also through the email?
I believe the Secretary of State's going to be posting it as well. So I think we can probably get a copy and see what we can do about getting it up on our website.
Okay. Sounds good. Alicia, Janelle, Emily, there are lots of people in the background, by the way, here who are making this day happen. So if there's any other, I guess, contacts, we can certainly follow up with it. Alicia, did you have any other comments to share before we end?
Don't know. Just thank you everyone for participating today. Thank you for the questions. We will be sending a follow-up email to everyone who's registered, and we can definitely incorporate the link to this recording in that as well. So thank you again for participating. We appreciate having you listen in and learn more about the Voters' Choice Act. It's very exciting for Sonoma County and very exciting for the state at large. So thank you again.
Congratulations again, Sonoma County, and we look forward to seeing you vote in more days and more ways. Take care.
Thank you very much.